It started with a job I never should have taken. I wasn't desperate for money, but the ad intrigued me. Need help moving antique furniture. Cash. Quiet house. One day only. There was no phone number, just an address and a time. It was in a part of town I didn't visit often, one of those old neighborhoods where everything seemed stuck 50 years in the past. The houses were tall and thin, with steep staircases, narrow windows, and gates that creaked when you walked past. I got there at exactly 10 a.m. The door was already open, as if I'd been expected. I hesitated, then stepped inside. The house smelled like mothballs and dried roses, like something fading and trying to stay alive. "Hello," I called. A woman appeared from around the corner. She looked like she belonged to another time. Her long gray hair was pinned back, and she wore a high-neck black dress with sleeves down to her wrists. She smiled faintly and said, "You're early." "That's good." I started to speak, but she turned and walked down the hallway without another word. I followed. The house was quiet, too quiet. No ticking clocks, no humming refrigerator, just the sound of my own footsteps on the creaking floor. She led me to a room in the back. Inside were a few covered chairs, a glass cabinet, and in the center, an enormous trunk. It looked ancient, not vintage, not antique, ancient, like something that shouldn't exist anymore. Its surface was blackened with age, covered in carvings I didn't recognize. Some looked like letters, others like symbols scratched by a trembling hand. "This is what I need moved," she said, pointing at it. "It must be taken to the basement." I looked at her. "Do you want me to open it first? To make it lighter?" Her eyes sharpened. "No, it must not be opened." Her voice was low but firm. She stepped closer and laid a hand on the trunk's surface. "It has been sealed for a reason. You will respect that." Her fingers lingered, like she was comforting it. I didn't know what to say. I bent down to lift one end. It was heavy but not impossible. Still, something about it made my stomach turn. It felt wrong. Not like an object, but like a presence. I avoided touching the carvings. With her guiding me, I carried it down a narrow flight of stairs into the basement. The air grew colder with every step. The light bulb overhead flickered. "There," she said, pointing to a corner. Gently, I set it down and exhaled. "What's in it?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. She gave me a small, bitter smile. "Things that should never wake." I waited for her to say more, but she didn't. Instead, she handed me an envelope of cash and nodded toward the stairs. "You should go." Her voice was softer now. "Thank you for your help." I nodded and left, not quite running, but walking fast enough that I probably looked ridiculous. I didn't look back. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the trunk, the symbols, her words, the weight. Around midnight, I heard something strange, my phone buzzing with a message from a number I didn't recognize. Just one sentence. "You need to come back." My skin prickled. I stared at the message, unsure if it was real. Then another. "I can't hold it alone." I didn't know what to do. Against every bit of good sense, I got in my car and drove back to that house. When I arrived, the front door was wide open. Inside, the house was darker than before. No lights, just silence. "Hello," I called. No answer. I crept down the hallway toward the basement. The door was open, the light on. I took a breath and went down. The trunk was still there, but the woman wasn't. The room was cold. I approached slowly, noticing that the carvings looked different. Some were glowing faintly. I crouched down and touched the side. Not the carvings, just the corner. The trunk vibrated beneath my fingers. Then it moved. Just a little, but it moved. I stepped back, heart racing. And then I heard it. A voice. From inside. Whispering. Pleading. Not in English. Not even in a language I could name. But I understood it. It was hungry. Not for food. For fear. For freedom. Something pounded from inside. Hard. The trunk shuddered. A crack split along the lid. I ran. I don't remember getting back to my car. I just remember slamming the door shut and driving until I couldn't see the house in my rearview mirror. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just kept replaying the moment the trunk cracked. What would have happened if I stayed? What if I go back? I tried to ignore it, but over the next few days, I got more texts. It's leaking. I can't stop it. You brought it downstairs. It remembers you. I blocked the number. I threw my phone away. It didn't matter. The messages started appearing on my laptop. My TV flickered on by itself. At night, I heard things moving in the corners of my room. Whispering, breathing. I wasn't alone. It had followed me. Or maybe I let it out. A week later, I found an article online. The house had burned down. No survivors. No signs of arson. Just a pile of ash and a single blackened object in the basement that no one could identify. The news called it a furnace part. I knew better. The messages stopped after that. But the nightmares didn't. Every night, I see the trunk. And every night, it opens. Something crawls out. Not human, not animal. Something old. And it whispers my name. I started talking to people, trying to find answers. Paranormal investigators, historians, occult researchers. One woman listened to my story, her face pale the entire time. When I finished, she handed me a drawing, an old sketch from a forgotten book. It was the trunk. It's a prison, she said, for something that doesn't belong here. That woman wasn't its owner. She was its guard. I asked what I should do. She just said, pray you weren't its key. I tried to move on. I left the city, changed my name, got a job in a place where no one asks questions. But sometimes I still hear the whispers. When I close my eyes, I see the carvings glowing. And worse, I feel it, watching, waiting. And I know one day I'll hear a knock at the door. And when I open it, the trunk will be there, just sitting quietly, waiting to be brought inside. And I know I'll do it, because some part of me belongs to it now. Some locks, once opened, never fully close. Some things, once seen, cannot be unseen. And some trunks should never, ever be opened.